Get your hands where I can see them. Now both of them. Against the hood. She doesn't move fast enough. He grabs her wrist. I said now. The hood of the Lexus is warm. She can feel it through her blazer. The parking lot of Riverside Mall is crowded for a Thursday evening. Families with strollers, teenagers, by the food court entrance. A security guard frozen near the automatic doors. Vanessa Monroe presses both palms flat against the dark metallic finish of her 78,000 GX600 and breathes. Officer, I haven't broken any laws. I'd like to understand the nature of this stop. He doesn't answer that. His name tag reads Griggs, and he is already on his radio, calling it in, telling dispatch he has a suspect in the parking lot of Riverside Mall, female, driving a vehicle that does not match her profile. He says those words, does not match her profile, without hesitation, as if they constitute a legal category. Funny how that works, Griggs says, stepping closer. Every third person I stop in this lot tells me they own the car. Funny thing is, most of them don't. Vanessa Monroe counts. That is one. He reaches through her open window without asking, pulls out her registration, holds it up, doesn't read it, lets it fall to the pavement. 2. You want to tell me where you were coming from? I was at the Nordstrom. I bought a coat. The Nordstrom. He lets the words sit there like a punchline. Uh-huh. And before that? She tells him she'd like to see his badge number clearly. He steps back so the badge is visible but says nothing. She notes it, 4471. She notes his car number. She notes the exact time. 6:47 p.m. And the names of 3 bystanders she can see. A teenage boy filming on his phone, laughing at something he says to his friend. A man in a blue windbreaker who nods at Griggs, gives him a thumbs up, mouths something that looks like, finally, and a woman in a church dress who watches for exactly 5 seconds and then walks the long way around toward her own car without looking back. 3, 4, 5, 6 second cruiser pulls in. Officer Dana Kessler steps out, takes in the scene, and makes her decision in about 4 seconds. She walks over and stands beside Griggs. Does not ask any questions. Her hand moves to rest near her belt. Ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us, Griggs says. You can explain the vehicle situation down at the station. I own the vehicle. That's what they all say. He has no idea who is standing in front of him. And in 47 minutes, every person in this parking lot who pulled out their phone to watch is going to see what happens when you do this to the wrong person. They just don't know it yet. But this story doesn't start here. Rewind to a different parking lot, 31 years earlier. A community college in Cincinnati, Ohio, 1994. Vanessa Monroe is 22 years old, sitting in a 1986 Civic with a cracked dashboard and a scholarship letter she has read so many times the fold lines are going white. Her mother, Evelyn Monroe, works the overnight shift at a commercial laundry on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. She works the morning shift at a school cafeteria on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She is raising Vanessa and her 2 younger brothers on those 2 jobs, and a prayer, as Evelyn puts it, and not necessarily in that order. The scholarship is to Ohio State. Pre-law. Full ride. Vanessa reads it again in the parking lot of that community college. Then she starts the Civic and drives home to tell her mother. 31 years later, Vanessa Monroe is 53 years old. She is 5'6". She keeps her hair natural. She wears blazers that cost more than most people's car payments, and she wears them without apology, because she has earned every single one. She is the special agent in charge of the FBI's Cincinnati field office, and she has held that position for 6 years. Before that, she spent 11 years in the Bureau's Public Corruption Unit in Washington, D.C., during which time she oversaw investigations that resulted in the conviction of 2 state senators, 1 county sheriff, and a sitting federal judge. She has a law degree from Ohio State, a master's from Georgetown, and commendations from 3 different FBI directors. She is, by any objective measure, one of the most credentialed law enforcement officers in the state of Ohio. On her desk, in the corner, she keeps a framed photograph. It is the only personal item on the desk. It shows Evelyn Monroe at Vanessa's graduation from Ohio State Law, 1995, May, a clear day, wearing a yellow dress she had pressed the night before after her Friday shift at the laundry, standing beside a daughter who is 3 inches taller than her and wearing a robe that cost $45 and that Evelyn helped pick out. The photograph is slightly overexposed on the left side because the sun was in that direction. Vanessa has never had it corrected. She likes the way her mother's face looks in that light. On the evening of April 14th, she left her office at 5:30. She told her assistant she was going to the mall. She needed a coat. She'd been putting it off for 3 weeks. That is what she was doing in the parking lot of Riverside Mall. Getting a coat. Officer Dennis Griggs, badge 4471, has been with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department for 11 years. He has commendations. He was awarded the department's Excellence in Community Policing citation in 2019 and again in 2022. His supervisor, Captain Ron Mead, calls him one of the most reliable officers on the force. In 11 years, Griggs has logged 31 complaints. 31. Excessive force. Unlawful search. Racial profiling. Harassment. 31 complaints over 11 years, and Captain Mead's office reviewed each one. Dismissed. Every one. The department's internal review board is chaired by a lieutenant who has been Mead's hunting partner for 15 years. The system was not designed to stop Dennis Griggs. The system was designed to protect him, and it had been doing exactly that for 11 years. On April 14th, that system met Vanessa Monroe. At 6:49 p.m., Vanessa Monroe is placed in the back of Griggs's cruiser. He hasn't charged her with anything. He tells her they're going to verify the vehicle registration at the station, which is not a procedure, and he knows it. Kessler follows in the second car. The Lexus is left in the Riverside Mall parking lot with a temporary hold notice on the windshield. Inside the cruiser, Vanessa Monroe does not panic. She asks for the name of the watch commander. Griggs doesn't answer. She asks again, calmly, using the exact phrasing from department protocol. He tells her she'll find out when they get there. She counts that as 7. She thinks about a case that landed on her desk 3 weeks ago, a pattern of complaints originating from the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. 8 incidents over 4 years. 7 black men, 1 black woman, all stopped in or around Riverside Mall between the hours of 5 and 9 p.m. All driving vehicles valued above $60,000. All detained on vague grounds. All released without charge. All too exhausted, or too frightened, or too busy to pursue what happened to them afterward. The case was assigned to 2 of her agents. It had a file number. It was, as of 3 weeks ago, an active FBI investigation. She thinks about that as the cruiser pulls out of the mall parking lot. At 6:52 p.m., she makes her one permitted phone call. It lasts 43 seconds. She calls her husband Marcus Monroe, who is a retired Army colonel and a practicing attorney. She tells him in a level voice where she is, why she is there, and what she needs him to do. She tells him to call Agent Deshaun Parrish. She tells him the file number. He knows which one. And she tells him to document everything from this moment forward and to contact the Bureau's legal team before doing anything else. Marcus Monroe says, "I'm already moving." She says, "I know." He says, "Don't give him anything to use." She says, "Marcus, who am I talking to?" There is a pause. And then he says, "You're right. I'll see you soon. She hands the phone back to Griggs. He is smiling slightly. He does not know that in the 12 seconds it took her to end that call, Deshaun Parrish, a 14-year FBI veteran who has been building the Riverside case file for 3 months, received a text message with 2 pieces of information, where Vanessa Monroe was being held, and the case file number. Parrish is already at his desk. He does not need to be told what to do next. He and Vanessa Monroe have worked together for 9 years. He knows exactly how she thinks. While Parrish pulls the file and begins drafting notifications, Marcus Monroe is opening his laptop. He is also pulling up his phone's camera app, pointing it at his computer screen, and pressing record. Documentation. Every email, every timestamp, every contact, all of it going on record from this moment forward. He has done this before. Not with Vanessa, but in his years as a JAG officer and then as a civilian attorney. Documentation wins. Emotion loses. Evidence is everything. Those are not his words originally. They are words he has heard his wife say to junior agents at least 100 times, standing at the front of conference rooms, drilling the principle into people who would need it. He uses them now like a steadying breath. At the Riverside County Station, Vanessa Monroe is processed. She provides her name and date of birth. She does not provide her FBI credentials. She is placed in interview room 3 and told someone will be with her shortly. The room has a camera in the upper left corner, a water-stained acoustic tile ceiling, and a laminate table that has been in this room since well before she passed the bar. She sits. She places her hands on the table in front of her. She begins counting, methodically, the number of procedural violations that have accumulated since 6:47 p.m. She is at 21 when the door stays closed for the 11th consecutive minute. Out in the corridor, Griggs is telling the story to the desk officer, a heavyset man named Phil, who has worked this station for 6 years. Phil is laughing, he says. She really thought she owned that Lexus, huh? Griggs says. They always got a story. Phil types something into his computer and shakes his head. Griggs leans against the counter and starts scrolling through his phone. He checks the bingo score. He texts someone. He asks Phil if they still have that frozen pizza in the break room. He is at peace. 36 minutes have now passed since the parking lot. In 11 minutes, that peace will be the last thing he recognizes about his own life. At 7:19 p.m., a call comes into the station. It goes to the watch commander, a lieutenant named Patricia Osei, who has been with the department for 16 years and who has been watching Dennis Griggs for about 8 of them. The call is from the FBI's Cincinnati field office. The caller identifies himself as Special Agent Deshaun Parrish. He asks Lieutenant Osei if she has a woman named Vanessa Monroe in custody. He asks her to note the time she received this call. He tells her, in a calm and professional voice, that the matter will require her full attention in approximately 16 minutes. Lieutenant Osei pulls up the intake log. She sees the name. She goes very still. She stands up and walks toward the interview room. Griggs sees her coming. He steps toward her in the corridor, ready to explain, ready to run through the whole thing again. The parking lot, the Lexus, the paperwork, the profile. He gets 2 sentences out. Osei says, "Get your union rep on the phone right now." He stops. What? Now, Griggs, I'm not saying it twice. She keeps walking. At 7:23 p.m., the door to the interview room opens. It is not Griggs. It is Lieutenant Osei. She sits down across the table. She is holding a file folder, which she places in front of her but does not open. She looks at Vanessa Monroe for a moment. She says, "I owe you an apology on behalf of this department." Vanessa Monroe says, "Tell me your name for the record." Osei tells her. Vanessa Monroe notes the time. She says she would like her property returned and would like to leave the station immediately. Osei says, of course. She says that everything, the stop, the detainment, the transport, all of it, has been documented. She says she is sorry it happened. Vanessa Monroe looks at her. Her voice is the same temperature it has been since the parking lot. Lieutenant Osei. I have been a federal law enforcement officer for 26 years. I have a law degree. I know what my rights are. I was detained tonight without cause, transported without charge, and held in this room for 36 minutes while officers in your corridor made jokes. She pauses. What I am about to tell you is not a threat. It is information. There is an active FBI investigation into a pattern of stops originating from this department. The incidents I've been describing to you from memory are documented in a federal case file that my agents have been building for 3 months. Tonight's incident was not the beginning of that investigation, but it may be the last piece we needed. Osei does not move. Vanessa Monroe stands. She straightens her blazer. She places both hands on the table and leans forward slightly. My name is Vanessa Monroe. I am the special agent in charge of the FBI's Cincinnati field office. And the investigation your department is currently the subject of runs through my office. The color drains from Patricia Osei's face. She stands. Her chair scrapes backward. Vanessa Monroe says, I'd like my coat, please. I left it in the back seat. Dennis Griggs did not go home that evening. He sat in the break room of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department for 2 hours while his union representative made phone calls. At 10:15 p.m., he was informed that he was being placed on administrative leave pending review. His badge and service weapon were collected by Lieutenant Osei personally. She did it without ceremony. She held out her hand and waited. He asked if she knew who she was dealing with. He meant Captain Meade. She said, That's a good question to be asking yourself right now. By 8 a.m. the following morning, Special Agent Deshaun Parrish had filed a formal notification with the Riverside County DA's office. The FBI's existing case file, 8 incidents, 7 black men, 1 black woman, all detained in or around Riverside Mall, now included a 9th incident, the detention of the special agent in charge of the FBI's Cincinnati field office, badge number and department vehicle number documented, timestamps confirmed, statements from 2 civilian witnesses. The teenager who had filmed and laughed in the parking lot had posted the video at 7:11 p.m. The previous evening, by morning, it had 340,000 views. By noon, 1.2 million. The comments section was not kind to Dennis Griggs. Captain Ron Meade did not call Griggs. He called his own attorney. By the following Monday, the U.S. Department of Justice had opened a parallel civil rights investigation into the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. The pattern of stops, 9 incidents, all targeting black drivers of luxury vehicles, all within a specific geographic radius, all handled by a small group of officers, all dismissed internally, satisfied the threshold for a pattern or practice inquiry under federal civil rights statutes. The investigation would examine not just the stops themselves, but the internal review process that had dismissed 31 complaints against Dennis Griggs without consequence. Captain Ron Meade's name appeared in that review process 18 times. On the 4th day after the parking lot incident, Vanessa Monroe gave a public statement. She stood in front of the Cincinnati field office, flanked by her legal team and 2 colleagues from the Bureau's Civil Rights Division. Her statement was 7 minutes long. It was precise, measured, and aimed not at Dennis Griggs, but at the architecture that had produced him. I am sharing this not for sympathy, she said. I have resources most people in my position don't have. I know the law. I know my rights. I know how to document what is being done to me as it is being done to me. Most people pulled over in that parking lot don't have those tools, and the system knows that. She looked directly into the cameras. I chose not to identify myself immediately, and I want to explain why. Because if I have to announce my title to be treated with dignity, then the system is already broken. The question is not whether Vanessa Monroe deserves to be treated fairly. The question is whether everyone driving that car deserves to be treated fairly. And the answer has to be yes. Not because of who they are, because of who we are. She paused. I've spent 26 years investigating the ways power is abused. I know what accountability looks like, and I know what it doesn't look like. What I saw in that parking lot, and what your department's own records document across 9 incidents and 31 dismissed complaints, is a system that has been protecting misconduct for years. That ends now. One journalist asked if she felt her identity as a black woman played a role in the stop. She said, I feel certain it did. She said it the way you would confirm a fact, not lodge a complaint. She did not take additional questions. Dennis Griggs was terminated from the Riverside County Sheriff's Department 2 hours after the parking lot incident. His union filed a grievance. The arbitration process is ongoing. He faces 3 federal charges: unlawful detention, civil rights violation under color of law, and obstruction related to his failure to document the stop according to department protocol. His attorney is negotiating. The federal prosecutor is not in a hurry. The 31 complaint files in Griggs's department record were transferred to the DOJ review team. 12 of them have been reopened. 2 are being considered for referral to federal prosecutors. Captain Ron Meade submitted his resignation on a Friday, 3 weeks after the parking lot incident. He cited personal reasons. The letter was 2 sentences. Officer Dana Kessler, who stood beside Griggs that evening and said nothing, requested a transfer to the department's Community Affairs Unit. Her request was granted. She is currently enrolled in a 40-hour civil rights training program. She wrote a 3-page letter to Lieutenant Osei the week after the incident. It has not been made public. Lieutenant Patricia Osei was promoted to captain in May. The promotion had been pending for 8 months. It was approved the week after the parking lot. Marcus Monroe was at the station by 8:30 p.m. on the night of the incident. He brought the coat from the back seat of the Lexus. He and Vanessa sat in the car for a few minutes before she felt ready to drive. He asked her what she was thinking. She looked at the building. The lights were on in most of the offices. People were going about their shifts, filling out reports, making coffee, doing the small procedural work of a department that was, even now, still running as it had always run. I'm thinking about the woman who drove past in the parking lot, she said. The one in the church dress. She paused. I'm thinking she'd seen it before. Marcus waited. I'm thinking she walked past because she'd learned it wasn't safe to stop. I'm thinking she made the right decision for her circumstances. And I'm thinking that's what this actually costs. Not what happened to me tonight. What it costs people for whom stopping isn't an option. She put the car in reverse. We have more work to do. They drove home. She was quiet the whole way. On her desk the next morning was the initial DOJ response to her report. A request from 2 national news organizations for comment, and a note from Agent Deshaun Parrish confirming that the case file had been transferred to the Civil Rights Division. She read them in order. Then she made coffee and started on the next case. The coat, a charcoal gray wool blazer, hangs in her office now. She wears it to depositions. If this story made you feel something, anger, clarity, or just the need to sit with it for a minute, share it. Because Vanessa Monroe had the credentials, the resources, and 26 years of legal training working for her that night. Most people don't. And the only thing that changes that gap is whether we keep watching, keep talking, and keep demanding accountability from the systems that are supposed to protect all of us? Drop a comment below. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you knew your rights, but felt completely powerless to use them? What does accountability in policing look like in your community? Subscribe for more stories that don't look away from the truth. Because every view is a signal that these stories matter. And they do. Someone has to be watching.